let's get talking about how we deal with these little critters, shall we? I thought I'd start things off with a few little fun facts for you, a bit of history. The first known ancestor, first family of bedbugs actually emerged around 115 million years ago. It is actually believed that the early species of bedbug did feed off the dinosaurs. If you do share my sort of level of humour, I did find it quite funny to picture the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex with bedbug bites all down his back and desperately with those piddly little arms trying to have a scratch. So yes, they have been doing their head in and our head in for many, many years. But it is fair to say that even back then, they preferred a host whose home they could invade rather than actually living on the host himself. They didn't appreciate the roaming lifestyle of a dinosaur, and they very quickly evolved to feed on warm-blooded creatures such as bats and birds around the late Cretaceous period. So a day like today, the bedbugs would happily sunbathe, drinking their cocktail, waiting in that nest of the bird, waiting in the bat cave, and along they would come back at the end of day or the end of night in the case of bats, and food would be served, basically. This was always their preferred method. This here on the right-hand side of your screen is a fossil, the oldest known fossil of a bedbug, which can be linked to human feeding. This fossil actually dates back 11,000 years, and it was found in the caves in Oregon in the US Midwest, alongside basically fossilized human remains. It did say feces as well, but I didn't see the need to write that on the slide. But this did obviously show that bedbugs were at this point starting to feed off human blood. Now, bizarrely, there was a period in time where actually being bitten by a bedbug was seen as a good thing. In Rome in 77 AD, it was published in some natural history journals that bedbugs had medicinal properties that would actually help to treat snake bites and ear infections. And as late as the 1800s, it was actually thought they could treat hysteria. I'm sure most of you will agree that it was more likely that they're going to create hysteria than actually treat it. But they did believe some strange things back then. This also here on the right-hand side is a notice from 1499 warning of the potential of bed bugs in your bed. So it is a problem that has been around for a long old time. If we want to focus on the UK, they believe the first bed bugs were in the UK in 1583, and that they first became a problem in London in the 18th century. And it's thought that they came to London on the wood that was used to rebuild after the Great Fire. So there you go, the wonders of Google. Hopefully that has given you a little bit of history, a little bit of rundown. Next survey you go do, you can share some of those amazing facts and impress them with your knowledge. So let's get on with the approach. How do we identify the problem in the first place? How do we actually establish that we are dealing with bed bugs? Obviously, you're going to start on the phone, so it's all about asking some key questions. What you're trying to establish is, are they currently sharing their bed with a bed bug? So the first question is, have you seen any live bed bugs? Now, in their mind, they're probably seeing something a little bit like this, but you might want to help them out, maybe send them a picture and suggest that it's more likely to look something like this. Obviously, seeing bed bugs, as you all know, is not as easy as it may sound. They do like to hide away, go to places where people can't find them. So some other things you might wish to ask them is, have they seen any blood spotting on their sheets in the morning where they have been bitten overnight? Or for that matter, do they have any bite marks? We aren't obviously talking regards young love here. We are talking about small itchy bites. And the location of them on the body will also help you to establish whether we are in fact dealing with bed bugs. They are often mixed up with fleas. If you have got a flea issue, you tend to find that they will bite on the lower parts of the body. So you're going to find those bites on the feet, on the lower legs, those sort of places. Whereas if we've got a case of bed bugs, they tend to target more the face, the neck, the shoulders, and down the back, very much like the photo in that bottom corner there. You also tend to find with bed bugs that they'll bite along a line. So you'll tend to find they form a line up the body, very much like you see there. If you are satisfied that they do have a bed bug issue, the next case is going to be to arrange a visit and to obviously go in and carry out a survey. Now, you do want to do a very detailed survey. You want to be looking absolutely everywhere and ideally finding bed bugs themselves. They do like harborages, dark places, places where they're hidden. They're not just going to be there on the mattress waving at you going, come on in. You are going to tend to have to look around the headboard, around the entire mattress of the bed, lifting up those seams underneath the buttons, for example. And other classic places are in the frameworks of the bed, obviously the joints where the legs meet the frame, places like this. Now, it's not just the bed. You want to be searching that entire room. So classic places are things like the bedside tables and drawers, behind picture frames and mirrors. You might even, if you're being very thorough, want to lift up the edges of the carpets, look along those skirting boards, and even maybe undo light fittings, plug sockets. They do like to hide out in there. So you really are going to have a thorough search around. Now, if while you're doing this, you do find yourself salivatating, I think I said that right, drooling basically at the thought of having a chicken korma this evening, it quite possibly is because you've picked up the scent of crushed almonds. Goodness knows why. I don't know why, but supposedly that is a clear smell and a clear sign of a high bedbug infestation. So if you do pick that up, that would be another helpful signal. Finally, like all of us, they do poo. So if you're not finding the live bed bugs themselves, when you do lift up those cushions, look under the seams of the mattress, like in that picture in the bottom right there, you will often see these dark black splodges, which is their excreta marks. And all these things will basically help you to establish that there is a problem. And you at that point know that it's time to get yourself in there and carry out a treatment for them. Now, cross checks. These are absolutely essential. A classic sort of error is, I've got bed bugs in this room. This is the room I'm going to treat. But it isn't quite as simple as that. These little guys do like to migrate. They do move around. And so in this picture, for example, we have bed bugs in room 208. We found them, we've seen them, we know there's a problem, but the cross check is vital. So if this is someone's residential home, you want to be obviously checking all the other bedrooms on that floor, seeing if there's evidence of any in those rooms as well. And don't forget downstairs. They may well be in the living room, in the sofas, in the chairs. So carrying out a thorough cross check is vital. If we're talking about a hotel, as we say, we've got bed bugs in room 208. But we may find they have also moved into room 209, possibly also in room 207. You get the idea. But once you have found them in 209, you then need to be checking room 211 as well. And it's like a snake. Just keep going along until you get to a room where there aren't any, and you know you've found sort of the area within which they've spread. You also have to check above and below. So in a hotel, room 108, room 308, do make sure you're checking all around. It's not just about that part of the hotel. Bed bugs are complicated. You know all this. But if we are in a hotel, those cleaners are going to have gathered up the sheets on the bed, taken them down that nice little staircase there, and taken them to hang out in the laundry. So that is another place that you must go check. If you're going to get on top of a bed bug problem, you've basically got to solve it within the entire property. It is no point just targeting one place. You must make sure you've cleared it throughout. So you're now planning for the job. Yes, this does involve a coffee and a newspaper. They're an essential part of your day. So do make sure while you're drinking your coffee, having a read through that newspaper, you're also going through the various risk assessments in your head. These include a site assessment, an environmental assessment, and of course, COSH. As part of this, you're going to come out of it with what you need to be wearing in terms of the correct PPE. Obviously, for your sake, I hope you have it right now because it's not exactly easy to get hold of. But assuming you do have everything there, this is all pre-preparation before you even start getting going on the treatment itself. Now, one of the first things to do is obviously prepare that room. Now, this is something that the customer could do, or you may wish to take on yourself, and that is just simply to bag up and secure all the bed linen, all the sheets, everything sort of clothing wise that can be removed from that room and may be infested. It's always advisable to double bag up this stuff. I've always said in life, it's better to be safe than sorry. So do double bag. And when you have removed it from that room, take it to the wash, put it on the highest temperature possible in order to kill the bed bugs that might be present on those things. In terms of preparing the room, it's advisable to sort of move all the cabinets, move the bed out away from the wall, sort of bring everything towards the center of the room so that you've got easy access to everywhere and you can go around and spray and treat absolutely everything. As I mentioned earlier, you can, if you choose, loosen the carpets away from the floor. If you are being particularly thorough, don't electrocute yourself. Do turn off the electricity and then unscrew your light fittings, your fixtures, so you can move all these away, and it opens up the opportunity for dusting in those, as you will find that a lot of bed bugs do hang out in those sort of locations. The final sort of warning for your customers, you don't want them to be embarrassed. You are going to be rummaging around in their bedside tables and cabinets. So if they do have any personal belongings that they may wish not to be there and for you to come across, do just make it clear to them that anything that is removed from that room could be a harbourage for bed bugs. So do thoroughly check it before you do take it anywhere else. So we come into the actual treatments themselves. There's obviously a few options in terms of treatment. I do feel that generally people do still turn to chemical as the first port of call. I've used this picture here. There's obviously many products available out there that can be used for treating bed bugs. This is straight from our brochure, and it just demonstrates a nice cycle. So there are some manufactured Lodi products on here. But as I say, whatever you choose to use is going to do a good job for you. And there are still a lot of options out there. I'm always hearing that there aren't many bed bug products anymore, but it's not true. There are a vast array of things that you can choose to use. The key is using as many as possible. These aren't easy to kill. They're right little nightmares, in all honesty. So the more chemicals you throw at them and the more visits that you do, the better. Bed bugs are not really a one visit job. You should be really looking at doing 2, possibly 3 visits. And as I say, mixing up the products each time you go. Personally, I always think it's quite sensible to start with a liquid concentrate. You're basically looking for something that offers a strong knockdown to really get on top of them quickly. But then obviously the longer the residual, the better. We do now have this new micro encapsulation technology with residuals, which extends their use. You have it in products like our Phobi CAPS, but also like the K-Othrin. These will obviously extend out that residual period. And if you do have the option to add an IGR, an insect growth regulator, to that mix, this obviously helps as well to disrupt the development of the bed bug itself. So it will kill off those eggs. It will stop the nymphs developing into adults. And all this just assists with getting on top of the job. Second visit, first visit, whichever way around you want to do it. But if you want to mix things up a bit, obviously wettable powders are a very good option when it comes to bed bugs. There is obviously a huge hoo-ha at the moment about the FICAM W going off the market. I know Rob's going to speak about that in detail later. But just because FICAM has gone, it doesn't mean it is the end of wettable powders. There are others out there like the C40, like Citral 40. So you can obviously mix things up, bring in that powder around the floors and walls in those light fittings and sockets that we talked about earlier. The final sensible option would be, if you can, to treat the mattress. Tricky now. Obviously, one of the big things about FICAM W was this ability to treat mattresses with it. Options are limited now. I've put Phobi Dose RTU here as one, but there are various pyrethrin products, I believe, again, the K-Othrin, that can be sprayed on the mattress. And this obviously is a sensible idea. If the mattress is absolutely crawling, I would fully suggest that you try and convince the customer to get rid of it and buy themselves a new one. But if we are talking a light infestation, spraying around those seams, getting rid of the bed bugs that are harboring around there is obviously a sensible way to go. As I say, chemical treatment does tend to be the way people go, but it is not the only option by any means. Another popular option, becoming more and more popular, is to carry out a heat treatment. Now, using a heat pod is not going to be something that's available to all of you, but if you are able to do it, this obviously removes the need to take anything away from the room, because The heat of the pod will kill any bed bugs within the bedding itself, in those furnishings, in any clothes, because you literally enclose everything within it. The DNA of bed bugs actually starts to break down at a temperature of over 45 degrees centigrade. But to actually kill the bed bugs and the eggs, you need to be going over 50 degrees centigrade, and you do need a treatment of a period of several hours to actually get rid of that problem. A simpler method of heating is to use a steamer, such as the Cymax Eradicator. You can obviously use this along the seams, along the buttons of the mattress, and it will that way kill all stages of the bed bug itself. Now, you can go the complete opposite way to heat. Yes, you guessed it, it is a cold treatment. Just like heat will kill them, severe cold will do the same thing. Some people might not like the idea of heating their clothing and risk damaging it. So if you are able to bag them up, put them in your freezer, a temperature lower than minus 20 degrees centigrade should do the job if you leave them in there for a few days, just to kill off, again, all stages of the cycle. There are actually freezing sprays out there, things such as the Organex spray. You can obviously just simply go along the seams with this. It's a way of not applying chemical to the mattress. Obviously, you might not be comfortable doing that. Your customer might not want you to do that. So if you do lift up those seams under the buttons, just spray something like this, and on contact, the freeze will kill the insects and the eggs. Now, do remember that both heat and cold treatments do offer no residual. So you are going to go in there, you're going to have a big impact at the time, but there's nothing to stop the bed bugs returning. And so it is sensible to sort of use these in conjunction with some sort of chemical treatment. Regardless of whatever way you've gone, they do have a habit of coming back. As good as you all are at your jobs, they are stubborn. So at the end of any job, it is sensible to put down some bed bug monitors, making sure you're using the right sort of pheromone. And this way you can keep it monitored and check that the treatment has been successful.